Hey guys, this is Grace and welcome to my channel. We are on the video number 2 of my latest 10 handmade card 1 homemade kit for September and October, and so we are on card number 6, and I colored in this really cute owl. I did kind of the purple hues, and then I've also pre-cut my this is actually a pattern paper. It has a very subtle black dot design, and then I'm working with strips. I saved up all of the strips from the 6x6 pad, and then I kind of wanted to do some design with them, so that's what I'm starting off with. I wanted to cut the right side of all of them into notches, and as you can see, some of them have holes because that's where the hole from the packaging was, but I'm going to ignore that because, or I'm not going to be worried about that because I am going to put my cute owl on the bottom left side, so most of that will be covered anyways. And then I'm going to be inking all of the strip with some, I believe, tea dye ink, because that's what I have been using for all of my cards, just to give it a little bit of distressed look. It reminds me of the browns of the season. And so the coloring of the owl was created using some Spectrum Noir markers, and these are alcohol-based markers. I'm not very good with the blending, and so I don't even try to attempt doing that. I just color it in because it's fun to color. It reminds me of my childhood, you know, when you have brand new Crayola crayons at hand, or markers, whatever, and then you just use and then you have new coloring books and you just color. So that's just what reminds me of that, and so I don't really worry about the shading and all that because coloring is, I'm fairly new to coloring, and besides that, if anything takes too long or it gets too if it takes too much of my brain, I kind of don't like that. I like my crafting or my card making to be therapeutic and relaxing. So if it's going to cause me stress, then I don't do those kinds of techniques. But that's just me. I mean, of course I am open to learning new things, but if I've realized for myself that it's something that's kind of difficult to do, then I don't do them. So I'm going to put this paper on a yellow card base, and those card bases were just cardstock from my stash that I have trimmed down to create an A2 card base, and then I have added the owl with some fun foam. I also added some shimmer to the owl using some Nouveau what is it called? Nouveau glimmer pens. And then of course the finishing touch that I've been using on all of my cards, I pulled the Doodlebug green pearls and then added that to two sides of the card, and that is card number 6. Now on to card number 7. This one, again, I wanted to utilize the pattern paper. I've said it before in the video number 1 and also in the product share that I really love the pattern papers. I'm glad that I've hoarded it, but at the same time it is time to use it. So that's what I am planning on doing here. I've used a lot of these papers, or what was left of it, and I intend to use them all up. So here I'm grabbing 3 different widths of paper strips, and then I'm going to cut the bottom piece into a notch to create kind of that ribbon effect, and then I'm going to put that on top. I also heat embossed big thanks with some copper embossing powder, and then I've just embossed it right onto the white cardstock or card base. I am going to, at first I was thinking maybe this could be semi-flat card. It's not going to be one-dimensional because it has the pattern paper on it, but it's going to be a fairly flat card, but I changed my mind and you will see why. So I had adhered these with some 1/4 inch adhesive strips, and then I was pulling that out, and it's kind of a pain to pull it out when you don't have nails and normally I do not, so it took me a while. Now I remembered I had these flowers, and I really wanted to use them up. So here I'm kind of seeing which combination would work best for this particular card. And then once I've decided it, these layered flowers actually have adhesive on the back, and so it was pretty easy to adhere them. And then of course, to finish it off, I am going to add a few more pearls to it, because why not, right? I mean, I've already put this product in my homemade kit, so why not use them up? And that's going to be it. And here are some close-up pictures of the card. Now we move on to card number 8, and I gotta say, this is my favorite out of all the 10 cards that I created. It just has this very sophisticated look. So I'm starting off with this yellow cardstock, or yellow card block, I should say, because my card base will be the white one. And I do not have a stitched rectangle die, but I realized that if I used my, I believe it's called a tracing tool, and it's usually used for sewing. And if I use that along with a straight edged, or the straight edge of a ruler, that I can create that, just the little dots on the edge of it, and that will mimic a stitched die cut, I should say. Now these leaves were created using the leaf die from Sizzix that I had pulled out for this particular kit. I bought the die at Hobby Lobby, and it has just different variations of leaves. Now I decided to cut them with my silver cardstock, the one that I pulled out for this particular kit, and it just has this stunning effect. It has the shimmer, it has this really sophisticated look, and it's not overpowering because the color of the silver, you know, it's not like too bold. It just has that sheen, and I love it. I also heat embossed the congrats stamp from that Joann stamp set, and I on the pink pattern paper. The pink actually has a subtle pattern to it. So now I have created my design. Nothing is adhered yet, and I kind of like to do that, like to set things put it where, kind of seeing how it's going to be before I commit to adhering them. I decided to adhere these with just the ends of it, because I do like how if you don't adhere all of them, then some of the edges will curl, so it gives it a little bit more depth and design to it. I like the shadows that it creates, and plus it's easier because then now I don't have to add liquid glue to each and every leaf or stem of those leaves. So now I'm gonna adhere the congrats. At first I decided, well, maybe I could just use it flat, but again, those leaves are pretty bulky now that I've adhered them to it, so I am going to adhere that with some fun foam. So the fun foam that I have, or that I've been using, have adhesive on one side of it, so I have to use my adhesive strips to adhere the other side that doesn't have the adhesive to it. But it's all good. I mean, I still think that it's cost effective for me versus having to buy those thick double-sided foam tape. And then of course I had to add the pearls, and that's it. Now onto card number 9. This one, I had this bright idea in my head to use the foil to create my background. I say bright idea because I don't know, I'm still not sold with how it all turned out, but it is what it is. And like I've said before, it's okay for me to kind of not have a vision come to fruition, because then I could just learn from my mistakes and move forward. So having said that, I added the stitching effect on the edge again, and then I have these really small, well, not small, they're about maybe half an inch of dots of glue dots. And because they are adhesive on both sides, I figured that they could be used to add the foils on my paper, kind of like what I did on the first video with that strip of double-sided adhesive, or I was able to add a strip of the foiling by using just that kind of adhesive. But this time I'm using a circular type of adhesive, and I'm going to see if that works well. So it's okay, but I had thought that the adhesives were a perfect circle, but really it's not. So it's kind of like some of them are like oval and kind of misshapen, but it's okay. I mean, it adds a little bit of shine to what would be normally a subtle or just a plain purple cardstock. So if you have some foil but you don't have a laminator or one of those ink machines or foil maker thingy, whatever machines there are out there, then you can use your adhesives. And like what I did here, you can use either a circular or a strip. Now I had cut out 2 ovals from a pattern paper, and from the pattern papers from this collection, and I was auditioning which one I liked better, and I'm going to end up with the diagonal stripe. At first I thought that the diagonal would kind of mess up with the coloring that I did with the owl, but because it's complementary, the orange complemented the purples on that paper, and the background itself is kind of very subtle, so it did not contradict with my colored fox there. So at first I was just thinking of just adhering the purple paper onto my card base, but it just wasn't enough. So I framed that with I backed that up rather with a pink pattern paper from the collection, and then I adhered the purple on the center of it. I heat embossed the sentiment just because with some black ink onto a piece of scrap pattern paper, and then adhered the oval, and then on the oval I adhered the fox. And of course I am still using these pearls because I have them already on my table, and they actually were pretty good at adding some elements to what would be mostly negative space within that foiled circle paper. So I hope that you've been enjoying these kinds of videos from me. If you do like them, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below. Now we are on card number 10. This one is pretty simple as well. I used up some leftover silver paper and added a scallop border that I used a die cut with, and then I wanted to emphasize, or is that the word emphasize? Yeah, I wanted to use up this acorn paper because it's pretty bold, but it's a fun, unique take on a fall card, right? Because it has purples there, and it's bright compared to a normal autumn or fall color scheme. And so I added the silver because my intention was to add my sentiment in that gap over there, and I wanted to highlight that, of course, because it's the focal point of the cards. So I'm trying to make sure that I add a little bit of emphasis on that part. Now I'm gonna use the congrats, but I wanted to see where I want to place it along with some of the flowers that I intend to add for this particular card. Now I heat embossed that sentiment right onto the card base, and then I'm going to add that. Now, if I lay my purple card flat, you don't really see the emboss. It's pretty subtle, but if I lift it up, you can see it. And even on the picture, you can see it. It's just somehow with the lighting, I do use natural lighting when I create the videos. And so I think that's another reason why you can't quite see it, but now you can. So I'm just adhering the paper onto the card base, and then I am going to finish off the card. You've kind of seen me design it as I go along, and I'm inking the edges just to give it a little bit more distinction between that and the card base. And then I'm gonna add back those strips of scallop. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can tell, but the papers are kind of wonky, like they're not really straight. So I'm gonna try to see if I can straighten that up or I can kind of cover where the angle is by where I adhere the strips. And here I'm going to kind of finagle with it and see if I can align it better. Here I am kind of moving things around. It's just not straight enough. But you know what? I remembered it's not going to even matter because I'm going to adhere those flowers there, and so the angle is not going to be noticeable that much. And that is my card. So here is a look at all the cards that I was able to create with my latest 10 handmade cards, 1 homemade kit. I hope that you guys liked it and was able to be inspired by the cards that I created and the techniques that I used and the products that I used. And because I had some more leftover items, I also created 3 more cards because I just wanted to use up the stuff that I already have on my table. And so these are the cards that I was able to create with the leftovers. So technically this is 13 handmade cards, 1 homemade kit. And here are what's left of the stash that I pulled. I still have a lot of that foil, a lot of that pearl, and then here are just the tools that I've used, different kinds of stamps, dies, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on another go around. Bye.